Whoopee. Hello, Bill.
Hi. Your curtains up.
Well, I don't know whether it's permanent or not, but how are you today?
Fine, I
Good.
guess.
You guess
It's
you
actually,
don't know?
2 days in a row, the bridge had no work on it.
Oh,
No workmen in sight.
there must be
No
something
cones.
something wrong.
No wait.
Hmm. Well, that's good.
It feels strange. It's been years.
Who knows? Maybe they're getting close to the end. I noticed the walkway isn't open yet, so
No. No.
I don't think all the lights are up on the walkway. I don't know, but I have do not try to understand those construction sites. They are what they are.
Yeah. Well, the roundabouts have been easy enough to follow what they're doing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
um, I have no.
And the one that's done seems to be functioning pretty well.
Yeah.
Unless you're a big truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And we'll see about the other one.
Yep.
I mean,
well, there's no reason it shouldn't also.
yeah.
It should actually improve the flow of the traffic.
Yeah.
So. I know you're there, Bill. I mean, Jeff. Jeff. That's Jeff. Yes. Mm.
Did you have a good Easter? Did you have a good Easter?
Easter is not particularly important to me,
Okay.
so it was a good Easter. Yes, it was quiet.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's not. I mean, I don't. I've pretty much lost my Christian religion. The ethic is still there, but yeah.
yeah,
And some of the family gathering and Easter egg hunt for the
Yeah.
grandkids and
well,
stuff. So
that's kind of you sort of have to do that. The son of one of my students, his wife is actually dying of cancer, but they have two small children, and he made sure he prepared an egg hunt for them.
yeah,
They had apparently a pleasant time there. Hi, Jeff.
Good morning.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Bill.
Jeff.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good, good.
Yeah.
How's the weather down there?
We're approaching 90 during the days now and 60s at night. And it's been extremely dry for about a month.
Ooh,
Yeah.
well, we've had a lot of rain and it's only 73 here today.
Yeah.
Mm,
But it is cloudy. So,
yeah.
good. The Ting Shaw is very happy today.
Yeah, it is.
Questions, reports. We
When we look at the forum, I just wanted to review um, White Goose into the turnaround and then into Wave Hands. But mostly
oh,
the whole the transition, that turning around, the footwork, the arm work. It's felt a little off this week. A couple
okay,
times I've done the form.
sure. Anything for you?
Not specifically, no. Yeah.
More practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never stop beating you up about that.
No, well, it's well placed. Well, this week, in addition to the egg hunt, Easter coincided with my wife's birthday, so there was,
Ah, how nice.
you know, double, triple the commotion and
Yeah.
running around. So that's my excuse, which
Okay.
isn't it? 'Cause excuse, it's just what happened.
It is what it is. So, but I was going to start today um, having you focus on some specific things that we worked on all the way along, but just one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd like you to do the 8 gates, and I want you to focus on the breathing. Now, I'm not going into breathing without breathing right at the moment, but what I do
Right.
want you to do is to be aware that you are not allowing your breath to halt anywhere, that it's continuous. And if there is a place where it halts, make note of it. Um, and perhaps be aware of why that's happening. Okay?
Okay.
Go to it.
I'm betting that if it halts at all, it will be somewhere in the range of one of the longer transitions.
Well,
But I'm not.
that would sound like you have had some experience of that
No,
before.
Just, I'm not aware of any halting, so I was just thinking on where it might happen.
Yeah, okay. So, any places where you found a hesitation in your breath?
Not really.
Not really. What does that mean?
Um,
Sort of?
um,
Did you run out of breath?
no, I probably breathe more slowly in the long transitions. So I was aware of having
Oh,
to meter out. Yeah,
of changing your pace.
yeah,
So you want to try to keep the pace constant.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Jeff?
In the transitions as well, I noticed it, and somewhat related to that in like the first rep of some of the postures. Um, Again, changing the instead of repetition, going from one to the other, changing
Mm-hmm.
cadence a little bit, which, as you said, we probably focus on not doing, but just making that transition because it took longer than for the full breath than I had been used to for 3 reps. So just
Yeah.
making that adjustment, I did notice some hesitation and a little bit of holter there while doing it.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, what this is pointing out is that the pace of your movement is not always the same. That you have to make some adjustment. Um, if you are um, aligning it with your breath, you want your breath to be consistent, and therefore all the movements to be consistent. Um,
Right, and I was keeping my breath, trying to keep my breath consistent, and it's the movements that need to adjust their
yep,
pace
yep,
because I don't want to adjust my breath. I was trying to keep my breath consistent, and the movements were a fairly wide range of speeds that I need to adjust a little bit here and there.
yep, yeah. Um, Bill, one thing I would say for you is that bend and stretch seems pretty consistent through the whole thing. I saw very little turning or twisting. It came and left,
Yeah, I
and
was aware. Yeah,
so that's a piece that needs to be in there too. Um, Jeff, with you, the twisting seemed to be pretty consistent. Your bend and stretch still is not constant, and it doesn't extend. Even just looking at spine to fingertips, it is not going through the whole that whole circuit in a consistent way. So
Right.
there are a lot
Yeah,
of places.
sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not, and I'm
Right.
definitely focusing on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, either of you have a question?
yeah. Back to the breath.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that I should do the forms slower
Mm-hmm.
to begin with, but I'm thinking it has to be a bit more slow to keep the pace because if I'm going from fire, well, the time it takes me to go back and forth here,
Mm-hmm.
now I can keep the same pace, but it takes way longer,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore the breath has to be stretched out. So if
No, it doesn't. Your movements have to be a little quicker there.
this movement,
Yeah,
okay,
because at the moment what we're talking about is keeping matching the movement to the breath,
okay,
not the other way around.
okay. Um, but that, in my mind, that conflicts with having the pace very consistent all the way through. So there's there's a speeding up in the transition.
So we're talking about exactly what goes on constantly in your Tai Chi form. It's exactly the same thing that's happening here. Just here it's smaller and much easier. I mean, we aren't trying to match the breath to the movements in the Tai Chi form, but we are trying to keep that flow consistent. But we have, just in the very first movement, you have coming out to here. That's a fairly large one.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is very
very
small.
small,
The
yeah.
next one is very small. The next one's a little bigger. The next one is small and a little bigger. I mean, it's the same thing, but you're trying to keep the pace going relatively consistently.
Okay.
The form has somewhat different requirements than the standing work, but it's one of the things about the breath, and I've probably said this before, but ultimately, and we've talked about this in Gods, ultimately you're trying to find how you round that transition from inhale to exhale and exhale to inhale. There's actually, Bruce describes it in terms of an actual overlap that occurs, so that there is absolutely no break.
Right.
And that's really what I'm suggesting should be going on here. Did I send you the handout on breathing without breathing?
Not recently.
I don't think ever. To you. I
No, no.
no, okay. I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Um, in doing that, ultimately, it becomes even more important that those transitions be completely interlocked and smooth. And when you get to that level with breathing without breathing, you're not worrying about aligning the movement with the breath. The breath is one element, and it's constant and smooth and continuous, full, long, and your movements are whatever they should be, but not dependent on the breath. So that's a separate practice. But in preparation for that, you have to develop a consistent, smooth breath when you are aligning it with the movement. Because eventually then you want to be able to let go of your focus on the breath, so that you can focus on first the movement and ultimately the energy. Does that make sense to you, what I'm...
Yeah. Haven't done it yet.
I do have one. I do. Sorry, Bill. It's
Yeah.
sometimes I miss when you're saying something. I would like to ask you for a little more detail. When you said that Bruce was talking about the overlap of the inhale and the exhale, can you give a little more detail to that?
Um, it's yes. What um, I probably should unpin you here so you can see me. No, that wasn't it, David. Well, I screwed that up. So, um, no, keep doing that. I'm sorry. There we go. Um, so obviously, what that's referring to is not inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, which um, is what very often we are doing. We have to find a way so that there is absolutely no break or hesitation between each phase. So that in effect, at the very end of your inhale, it overlaps slightly with your exhale, so that there is absolutely no pause of any kind, no hesitation, no limiting of that, and that it's as if the exhale and the inhale are the same, and they just continue. And this is one of those things that I can't tell you exactly how to do that. That's something you have to feel. Um, and and like everything else, it just comes from practice. Because
Mhm.
the more you practice the breath, practice with awareness of your breath, then the more you can be aware of what's actually going on when you breathe. So it's really a
Well,
matter of refining your ability to stay in the present moment with a single element, the breath in this case.
so the physical manifestation is that the lungs are always moving, either inhaling or exhaling.
Absolutely. Yep.
There's never a resting moment.
Nope.
So okay, so that's how I can think of it physically to make it happen. But what is the benefit of that as opposed to having a moment of rest in between inhale and exhale?
Any moment of rest, as you put it, interrupts the flow of the energy.
Okay.
Um,
So in its making the analogy to silk reeling, it would almost be like breaking the silk reeling
yeah, it would
movement.
be absolutely. You, that's a very good analogy. Whenever you are pulling silk from a cocoon, if you stop and try to start again, you break the thread, and
Mm,
that's
okay.
exactly what we're talking about here.
Mhm. Okay. So there's really there's the two aspects, the physical constant motion, not stopping between postures, and also the breath constant motion.
Hmm.
And we're trying to get both to work together to have that continual movement of energy throughout our whole form.
Yep.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, and you're working on developing this the breath and the physical movement so that you can stop being aware of it and focus
Right.
on the energy,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you have to get those to the point where you don't have to think about it. Because in order ultimately to arrive at the fullest development of being able to direct your breath, not just be aware of its movement, but direct it, you have to get to where you are focusing and working with the heart mind and the unconscious mind, not the conscious.
Right.
So that's a
Right.
jump.
Well, and that pertains that pertains to all of the physical movements and all of the physical
Absolutely.
aspects that we're
Yep.
trying to integrate as well. So it's all
Abs-
it's another one of those things that practice, 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 and we'll get better at it.
yes, if you can actually coordinate everything and learn to learn it well enough to not be able to have to think about what comes next, or am I doing it
Right.
right, or I did that wrong. Uh,
Right.
all of those
Yeah.
need to go. You need to be able to let go of that.
Right. And so also that the breathing overlap concept leads to the next. I'm projecting here. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it leads to the next step, which would be integrating breathing without breathing.
Absolutely, because in order for breathing without breathing to be effective, it has to be that kind of a breath.
Right.
And so
Okay.
you have to have it well enough developed that you no longer have to think about the breath, that
Right.
it is always overlapped, it is always smooth and continuous, it is always slowing as much as it can slow.
Hmm. Okay.
So I'm kind of pushing you guys here. I will admit this is not. Well, I'm not talking. We're not talking about beginning practice here.
Right. Well, I mean, I only speaking for myself, but I like to know as much as possible, even if I can't integrate it at this point, and maybe I never will be able to fully integrate it properly until I do have time to practice every day, kind of a thing. But I still like to know, and I like to learn as much from you as we can. So I certainly appreciate it. And to me, it's a positive when you push us.
Yeah.
So,
No, no. That's. I think that's right. There's nothing wrong with hearing this stuff, even though,
right.
as we probably all have experienced. Certainly, I have that. Sometimes I need to hear things multiple times before it sinks in,
Oh, absolutely.
or I'm capable of doing it.
Many times. Yes.
Yeah. So good. Anything else about this breathing?
No, it's obvious that, having to still catch up on turning and twisting interferes with this level that we're talking about.
Yep,
So I better get that cleaned up in a hurry.
that's true in your gods too.
Yeah.
They, we're not talking about something that's separate
Mm.
um, from that. Okay, so white goose spreads its wings. Let's see. I should. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to take myself away. I wanted to change how you see me on there. Okay. So play pipa to the corner. And so we have a step, and then you're twisting in and then out. And remember, this has 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. And then follow and focus. And then when you're going into down and under, you're stepping back. You're stepping back and around, and as you shift and rotate back onto that left foot, the arms are separating and twisting in. And then, as you continue rotating and rising, they're twisting out. Is that what you needed?
Yeah, can you do it once more? Same direction as you are now, because I want to focus on the arms a little bit more again.
Sure. So, play pipa. This is an outward motion, and then you have an inward. And notice that I'm coming in towards my body a little bit, so that when you get to the point that you want to go out, you have some place to go out from without getting out here. Those movements are quite subtle. It's boom, boom, boom. They're right together when you're doing it quickly. And then you have follow and focus, which are just the same. And then when you step, this begins to twist in and separate. And then they go out as you go into down and under. Out and you're rising.
Okay.
That sounds like you still have a question.
No, I don't think so. I think that clarifies it.
Okay.
Well, are you? That's coming out of shoulder stroke, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, in the long form, it comes out of play pipa at one point.
Right.
Sorry, you're absolutely right. It's
You did clarify the part that I had a question about, though, which was the rotation in the hands.
Right.
You did clarify that part. I just want to make sure that I was thinking of the right spot.
Yeah, no, you are correct.
Okay. All right.
So, the rest of it is the same. It's just you've been in shoulder, and then you're going into all of that.
Okay.
So
that clarifies it.
the weight shift would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we'll turn here, and then so this gets even subtler from shoulder than it does from play pipa. That happens in the second and third paragraphs in the long form.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about it.
Okay. Yeah.
So did that answer that question for you?
Yeah, it was the whole on the turning around to the down and under, or
Yeah.
the splitting. It was the what the hands are doing, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And you clarified it. So yes, that was good.
So why don't you try it? So you don't rush the arm movement. I can't do that. Damn. I lost my. I screwed up. No, that doesn't. Oh, good, David. Yeah, I think you're separating a little too far as you turn, because really that's just separating pretty much lower dantian and heart level.
So I'm going too much height difference.
Yeah, so let's see if I get the right place. So as you turn, that begins to separate. And notice that my
Yeah.
upper hand really doesn't go up at all. The low,
Okay.
the lower one moves down to the lower dantian, and it's when you are going to twist and bend out, extend out, that they change, and there is a real difference in the height.
Okay. I also realized when I started that I think my hands start at too high a position after White Goose as well. That may be part of it.
Oh,
Where
um,
where where are your hands at the end of White Goose? How high?
um, the right one is at face level,
Okay.
and the left one is at chest level.
Oh, all right. So maybe that wasn't a problem of mine as much. But I think I did raise the right hand as I turned into it as well, which was probably the problem.
Yeah, and then follow and focus, they both come down a little and end up at throat level in focus.
Yeah, that's I am too high after focus. That is the problem. After all, that is it.
Because you're not actually going at the face, you're pushing downward
Right.
through the whole body, and it just happens to be from throat level that you're doing it.
Yeah, I see. I think I was keeping my follow and focus at the same level as the end of White Goose.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, other questions?
No.
No. did, did Was that helpful for you too?
Yeah, yeah. Every little bit helpful.
Isn't it interesting how that is? Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, that's much better, David. Thanks.
Okay.
It was much
Um,
better.
I
so,
will admit that I was sitting there trying to think how I had misplayed people.
oh, you didn't. I was jumping to the long form. That's that's the danger of this kind of a.
It always used to marvel me, David, when you were teaching like 6, 7 different forms, how you didn't screw them up more. How you were able to keep. I was always like, wow, because at the time I was doing like like usually one form and like two weapons forms, and even then I was like, wait a second, I'm lost. So I always marveled over
Present moment.
that. Yep, yep, exactly.
And getting to the point where you don't have to think about what comes next.
Right.
Um, that's like, if I were if we were just flowing through the form, I wouldn't have a problem at that point. It's jumping into
Right.
the middle of
Oh
it
yeah, yeah.
that
Right.
So
Especially if you're doing two yang forms and two wu forms, and
yeah,
a lot of lot of replication.
yep. That's like I have a class where we do a very short yang style and a very short and the 8 gate form, both of them,
Mm,
which is also yang. However,
right.
rollback is different in each of them.
Mm,
I have moments of having to think about that one.
Yeah. Well,
right. Right.
you're also teaching at different levels,
Oh yeah,
for each form.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
one class may be more advanced.
yep.
Yeah.
There is that too. Okay, so what I want, if you don't have other questions about specific postures, what I want you to do is to flow through the form,
Mhm.
trying to stay aware of your breath. We're not thinking about breathing without breathing at the moment. That's not
Yep.
not the issue here. But what I would like is for you to make sure that you're not pausing the breath anywhere.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Go to it.
That was especially for you this morning. I don't think I've done that in months and months.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Okay. So how was your breathing in the form?
Okay. Um, there are a few places around Subdued Tiger where I noticed the form trying to stop,
Mm-hmm.
and that affects the breathing somewhat, but I didn't feel like I ever stopped the breathing. You
Good.
know. Other things.
Well, there were some other things, but yeah. Jeff?
I found that um, at the end of every exhale, I went, flowed straight into, at the end of every inhale, I flowed straight into the exhale, no hesitation. However, after every exhale, I always had a natural tendency to want to hesitate
Yep.
before I started another breath inhale every single time.
Yep.
So that's something I obviously to focus on now.
Yeah. That's actually what you're experiencing, Jeff, is what many people experience. That's where we're most inclined to pause.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
I'm talking a pause of at least a second, maybe 2 seconds every time.
that's a lot.
Um, yeah, it is. I don't know, maybe whatever the reason, I didn't realize it until we started discussing it today. So
Yep. So that'd be a good thing to focus on.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
Yeah, historically, my exhale has always been less than my inhale
mm,
and faster.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then I've been trying to gradually adjust that,
Yeah.
so that they're both the same, and that the exhale actually, if possible, is even bigger than the inhale.
Well, it varies.
Yeah.
Actually, we have practices where you vary those depending on the intention.
Mm.
Because sometimes you want to get more out and sometimes you want to get more in.
Okay.
In relation to the energy, of course,
Mm. Yeah.
not
That's
just
what
the
I
breath.
figured. Yeah.
Yeah, well, a again, that's a good observation because one of the reasons why the very first of the Neigong elements is breathing,
Yeah.
because the breathing is just critical. It has to be smooth and uninterrupted and even. Um, it's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that I managed the overlap.
Uh-huh. Good.
There's however long it is, but there's
It,
a time when I would have trouble saying this is. I think they're both going on at the same time. So,
Good.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great. That's very good. So, plenty of things to work on breathing.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, one of the things for both of you uh, is to be really aware of just just focusing on bend and stretch to begin with. I mean, this is really kind of going back again um, to that beginning element, but being aware that every time you make a movement, that everything bends and everything stretches. Whether you have got the twisting yet or not, the thing that I'm seeing is that you both tend to get frozen in various places where not the arms just stop.
Stop,
They,
yeah.
there may be some movement in the hands, um, or some movement in the elbow, but it isn't everything. It isn't all of it. Um, so that's a really, that's a, a good thing to focus on.
Yeah, I know with me, it's a matter of still holding on to a sequence of separate
Mm.
movements,
Mhm.
yeah, rather than allowing them all to connect and flow together. I
Yeah.
mean, even coming out of this, I tend to pause there
Mm-hmm.
significantly, yeah, rather than it's sort of like the breath with the overlapping.
Yeah, it is. It
Um,
is absolutely.
I'm aware of what it should be, but I get okay, I've done this, now I go to the next one,
Yeah,
kind of mentality, yeah.
and in that specific movement, just talking about that one of the things I noticed was that um, Pung was good, G was good, Lu was pretty good, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, on just
On was
stuck out, yeah,
just an arm movement.
yeah,
It didn't come from anywhere,
yeah,
and and that creates the pause.
yeah,
If you keep it coming from the body, it's from the dantian, then it's a lot easier, really, to get the movement to be consistent.
yeah.
Whole body movement. So clearly, you guys know that um, if any part of the body is still, all parts have to stop. Another way to put that is that just is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, we try not to sort of do that say that in Tai Chi, but it is, because it's a very basic element, is that we're trying to get everything to be constant and continuous. And I'm not suggesting that I am a perfect example of that, but we all have to do it to the best of our ability, because it's a critical element,
Mm.
and it needs to be everything. Um, Jeff, sometimes in watching you, um, I see the arms doing something, and the hands haven't. Nothing has happened in the hands.
Yeah,
Um,
that's in that whole thing that we're talking about. I'm always focusing more on starting from the shoulder blades and scapula and moving them in and out. And by the time I get to my hands and my fingers, I've lost movement
yeah.
because I'm focusing on the bigger, and that's a constant problem for me. And I am trying to focus on that.
So the thing I would say about that, and I think this is important to remember, in working on something like that you are actually starting from the fingers in terms of learning that movement. So we start with, how do I bend the fingers and the wrist and open that? And then how do I add the
Mm.
elbow? And then how do I add the shoulder and the scapula? And get it all to go all the way into the spine and back. And it's
Mm.
um, if you jump to focusing on the shoulder blade and the spine without having developed the ability to coordinate the movement from the fingertips through to that, it's not going to work very well. And I
Mm.
think to some extent that's kind of what's happening for you.
Yeah.
So that goes back to just doing kind of basic, um, very basic training in learning to do that kind of movement. So we we if you remember when we first started working on this, we started with just thinking about the hands, that we're bending in and we're bending out, and we're bending in and we're bending out, extending out, David. And then you want to find how do you do a little bit in the wrist. The wrist is very subtle, but you want to get the energy to go out through the fingertips and come back in through the hands and wrists. And then add the elbows. How do you get the energy to go through the fingers, hands, wrist, and elbow? And can you feel it do that? In the yin surface, out the yang. And then add the shoulder, and then add the scapula and the spine. And it's just, that's a progression that we started with in the very beginning of our practices a long time ago. I haven't done that particularly with your classes because I'm expecting you to already have done that.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's something that's, yeah, I need to work on that basic concept again.
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
I'm I'm feeling like this might be enough.
Yeah, that's good.
I,
Good class.
yeah, I think I have to say that for both of you, you both have capability to do a lot more than you're doing, but you don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Take the time to do it.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it is to make the time to do it.
Mm.
And you know, it's um, one of the things that I keep going back to because it has worked very well for me all many years, and that's Bill Ryan's concept of yes, you will do some practice every day, but you're only committing to 1 minute a day.
Mm.
And if you do 1 minute, you'll probably do a few more.
I was going to say that's the trick. Yeah.
Well, it is a trick. It is a trick. Because once you
Mm.
start,
You can't stop at 1 minute.
all of a sudden you want to do a little bit more. But some days you can only do a minute. I mean, there are days. Um, Jeff has got an extremely busy schedule. Um,
Mm.
but setting up that pattern of doing something every day, and
Mm.
actually you get some benefit from it. So I encourage you to try that.
I had actually not heard you say that particular philosophy before. You said Bill Ryan is who it's from?
Oh yeah, well that could be because you haven't been around. I studied with Bill Ryan for a couple of years. Was Master Joe's senior disciple. I mean, Bill Bruce Francis's senior disciple for many
Oh, okay.
years.
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with him, David.
He lives up in the Springfield area,
Oh,
um, and I I was doing 4 or 5 weekends a year with him for I think 3 years. Uh,
oh, okay.
really fantastic workshops. He's a very good teacher, and his wife also teaches. She is good too, but
Right.
he's he's very good, and he was teaching um, really all of the energy arts qigong practices was basically what he was working on, and yeah, really great workshops. And I'm very fond of Bill. He's he, his oh, abilities with the energy are pretty significant, and his awareness of it is
Mm,
phenomenal. Um, he for many years when Bill was able to do classes regularly with Bruce, whenever Bruce wanted somebody to say what was happening with the energy when he was doing a physical movement, he would ask Bill because Bill could tell you exactly what was going on.
mm,
So he's one of those people that has a very high level of energetic awareness. It's kind of
right.
neat. So that was
Huh,
anyway.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Try a minute a day.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, it
Will
is.
do.
It is.
Okay.
Have a good
Take
week,
care. Have
Jeff.
a great week, you guys. We'll
Yeah,
see you next
thank you.
week.
You too.
Yeah.
How's
Okay.
Jesse?
He's doing great. He's on a field trip today. Today is a big day.
Oh,
So,
good.
brought him into school. It was a little bit different all around, and they're going to a play, Stuart Little, the mouse.
Ah,
They're taking buses to the play and having a picnic lunch, and then coming back later. So it was kind of a big morning to get ready for that.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, but it's he's nearing the end of first grade, David. You know, the end of May is the end of first grade for him. So
Wow. Hard to
flying
believe.
by. Yeah, it's flying by.
Absolutely,
So
it does that.
yeah, way too fast. But
Yeah.
uh, we will hopefully be in Connecticut either the very beginning of June or the very beginning of August. I haven't decided which yet.
Oh, okay.
Got to figure out one or the other. But
Oh, good. I look.
I'll let you know when I've made plans regarding that. So
Oh, that's good. I can really beat you up then.
yeah. Oh yeah. I look forward to
Okay.
it.
Good.
All right, David. Thank you. Take care.
You
Have a
too,
great
Jeff.
week.
You too,
Bye bye.
Jeff. Bye bye.